Ciao ragazzi, thank you very much for tuning into Inter Worldwide. It's a very, very exciting time. It's that time again. It's Derby d'Italia time, and I've got two fantastic guests with me. The first needs no introduction. He's famous for many things, but I'm just going to go and say that we know him best for being the co-host, carrying Jerry Mancini, as always, on the Cultural Connection podcast. So welcome for his second time on Inter Worldwide, Mr. Alex Donno.
Anthony, thank you so much. It's great to be back, especially to be on before a huge match like this. It really is an honor.
So exciting, so exciting. My second guest is he's a Goggi, he's a Ladri, he's a Juventini, but above anything else, he's a good human being and a fantastic football analyst and great writer as well. So it's an absolute pleasure to welcome onto the channel for the first time, Mr. Daniel Lucci. How are you, bro?
Good, and thanks for having me. It's gonna be it'll be exciting little talk we have and an exciting game on Sunday or Monday, I guess. But I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's great to have you on. It's great to have Alex on. So let's just dive right into it because, you know, we've had a fair bit of culture since it returned from the break. We'll talk about some of the variables that are going to make this derby, you know, really special and, you know, basically what it could be. But the way I'm thinking at the moment, it could be anything. Both teams have played 120 minutes pretty much in the Coppa Italia. Inter had to do it really tough by bringing on Romelu Lukaku, and you don't like to see that. But he was the main reason that we bailed. He was pretty much the big reason why we bailed out Fiorentina, with the other reason being bringing on Barella, another substitute as well. And I'll go over to Daniel soon enough for this, but he'll say as well, you don't want to see Cristiano Ronaldo having to strap up into extra time in the Coppa Italia. But even though he didn't directly score the goal, man, I was there watching the game. It was Ronaldo versus the world pretty much when it came in. Even when he's not directly involved, he's directing everything around him. So before I dive into a few of those specific variables, I want to just get an overall thought of where my guests are going in. So I'll start with the rival opinion. Daniel, what are your overall thoughts going into this derby, man? You know, Juventus, you had that brilliant win over Milan. That was such an important win. That was almost like the re-kickstart in the engine that your season needed. So, my bro, how you feeling?
Yeah, that Milan, like you said, that Milan game was huge. We stumbled a little bit against Sassuolo, and then again in the Coppa against Genoa. But it's good to see that we're supposed to be having Chiesa and McKennie back, hopefully at least off the bench. So that's a huge boost for us. Minus those two guys, they've been influential in our lineup. The only thing, you know, we've looked shaky at the back on the counterattack. My main concern is definitely Hakimi and Lukaku coming back on the counterattack against us. But then again, I've watched pretty much every Inter game this year, and you know, they're vulnerable at the back too. So right now it's tough to say. I could see it going either way. It's going to be tough. I think there's going to be goals. I just don't know which way it's going to swing, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we pretty much share the same sentiment there. Alex, I'm sure you're very excited, man. I'm sure you're a little bit nervous as well. How do you think this game is going to turn out, man? What's your overall thought going into the match?
Yeah, and you're right. I'm nervous. I mean, not only is this a fixture that Inter have not historically done well in, it's been 4+ years since Inter have actually beaten Juve in a Derby d'Italia. So it's been a long time. And, you know, you go through the usual January stuff with Inter. You get the typical winter dips in form. You get inconsistent play. You know, obviously, at the time we're on here live, we're a little over a week removed from a really tough loss, dropping all 3 points against Samp. You know, kind of sabotaged ourselves in the final minutes to drop a couple of points against Roma. And, you know, the Fiorentina performance, I wish Inter could have gotten it done within the 90. You know, it ended up being, you know, a good result for a game I wasn't expecting a brilliant performance in, but I'm happy that they pulled it out to advance in the Coppa. So there's really not overwhelming confidence from the Inter side. It's not to say that I don't think they're capable of winning the match. You know, and a couple reasons why I think Inter are certainly capable of winning it, because, you know, if Romelu Lukaku shows up on his best day, he can be deadly. Achraf Hakimi, as Daniel alluded to, has just been incredible form over the past few weeks. Like, he looks like he's really peaking right now. You know, you can expect to get solid play from a guy like Barella. You know, Brozovic more often than not plays solid, but then you've got, you know, a wild card when you think a guy like Arturo Vidal. Is he going to do something crazy to sabotage Inter? Is he going to get sent off or commit a penalty or something like that? And you know, the back line, including Handanovic in goal, have been a little bit shaky. But you know, of course, on the Juventus side, there are, you know, a ton of health issues and, you know, a ton of players who either are going to miss this match, or in the cases of guys like Chiesa and McKennie, may not be available from the start. They may have limited fitness. So, for that reason, the opportunity really is there for Inter to win this match. I'm cautiously optimistic. And of course, we all know in typical Pazza Inter fashion, if they don't get anything from this match, then I may have to stay away from the Italian papers for a couple of days because there's a ton of negativity swirling.
Yeah, 100%, man. Daniel said that he expects there to be goals. I can see why he'd say that. Inter have scored 21 goals in their last 10 matches, I believe. I think Juventus have scored something like 24 or 25. There's a good chance there could be goals, but in a match as historical as this, you could still very well see a dead 0-0. But I don't think that's going to happen at all. So reflecting on the last couple of times these two sides met. We met last season in. Let's just say Inter was a lot more hyped going into the first game last season. We had the great form of Mr. Glassman himself, Stefano Sensi, and in typical Inter fashion, he goes down. And from there, our midfield really never has recovered. And going into this game here, it'll be very interesting to see how both teams line up, considering the team news that you two gentlemen have already brought up. So let's have a think about the starting 11, and we'll start with us, Alex, so I can ask your help with this. Obviously Handanovic in goal. We could talk all about Radu getting any sort of chance this season, but if he's not going to get it in the Coppa Italia round of 16 to Fiorentina 3 days before the Derby d'Italia, we might as well just not revisit that idea at all for the remainder of the campaign. At the back, despite the lapses in concentration once or twice per game, for the majority, I've seen more fluidity in our back three and better communication in Bastoni, De Vrij, and Skriniar, with Skriniar pretty much elevating his level back to the form that we saw under Spalletti. And that is fantastic to see. Not even the likes of Antonio Conte can say that he's on the transfer market list now. So that's really good to see. And where it gets interesting is obviously where we play the 3-5-2 in the middle of the park. Hakimi is obviously the shoe-in for the right-hand side. But I'll stop right there and do the easy work, and Alex can do the hard shift by filling in the rest of those four men. Who do you think, man? We'll see if it matches up.
Yeah, I think the recent patterns would indicate he's probably going to start with Ashley Young on the left. I'm not thrilled about it, but that seems to be Conte's top choice on the team sheet. And Ashley Young, if I'm going to look at it from a positive perspective, he's due for a nice performance. I mean, for 6 months last season from January on, he was truly excellent. He's seen a dip in form this season, so he's due for a nice performance, to put it kindly. I think the rest of the midfield, when you talk about the center mids, I'm not expecting anything too unpredictable there. Obviously, Barella is one of the first players that Conte writes on the team sheet. I would expect Brozovic and our good friend Arturo Vidal to make up the other spots in the center midfield. And then up top, obviously, another pretty simple one to fill out. The substitutions later in the match could be interesting, but 99% sure, unless somebody picks up a knock before the game, you're going to see Lukaku and Lautaro up top. So I think that's how we round it out.
Yeah, 100%, man. And, it's a game where everybody's just going to have to be focused from minute one till the final whistle, because if the chance falls in the dead, but you've got to take it. This is going to be a match of moments and very, very fine, small margins. And, everybody needs to be on board. Over to you, Daniel, man. How do you expect your boys to line up?
I think it's going to be pretty basic. You'll have Chesney and net. You'll have Danilo probably most likely on the right with Bonucci, and probably Demiral in the middle, which will shift from a back four to a back three, depending if they're in transition to offense. And most likely on the left, it'll be Frabotta, I guess. The young guy's first year in Serie A, he's going to have to play some tough minutes against a good team. But with the three back there, they should hopefully cover him pretty well. He'll have a tough challenge of going against Hakimi, though, like we mentioned. And then in the mid, we'll probably have, I'm thinking, Rabiot, Bentancur. And then on the right, I'm thinking if Chiesa is healthy, he'll be starting, guaranteed. If he's good to go, it'll be him. If not, probably Kulusevski will take his place. But I like either of their chances against Ashley Young or Perisic, especially when they're attacking down that flank. And then up top, it'll definitely be Morata and Cristiano for sure. And then, just like you said, Alex, the subs can go either way. So we'll see how it goes.
100%, man. I'll ask you a question. So far this season, obviously, it's been a topsy-turvy campaign for you guys so far. Obviously, handling the business well in the Champions League, but a little bit sloppy in Serie A. Who are a few of the players that you've been really, really impressed with this season, and who are a few that you think just might not be able to fill the shoes at being at your club?
Yeah, so definitely I know Alex knows this for sure. I've been a big fan of Chiesa since Fiorentina. I know lots of people were not too sure about him and the price tag when he was coming over. Young kid, and Fiorentina wasn't very good, but he's showing that he's got the skill, and if he can continue on progressing and growing his talent, he'll definitely be a top player for this team. Morata's been a good surprise since his return as well. He's just got to work on the offsides a little bit, but eventually hopefully that'll clean up. When it comes to disappointments, I would think the biggest one so far has been Bentancur and Bonucci. Bentancur especially, who had a great season last year under Sarri, really took a step forward, but I think this year he's struggling to find that form that he had last year with the ball at his feet. And Bonucci is just he's in his mid-30s now. I don't think he's got what he used to have, and probably what made him such a good defender was having the likes of Barzagli and Chiellini beside him, who are can't play as much. But Chiellini did pick up some minutes against Genoa in the Coppa, so he might get some minutes this weekend. Whether he's able to start, I wouldn't think so, but it's a possibility. So that could be a change in the back line for sure.
Yeah, well, a returning Chiellini, even at that age, scares me way more than a Bonucci, because a Bonucci by Chiellini's side is a different Bonucci that we've seen pretty much anywhere else. Forever in his shadow, to be honest. And I would agree for the most part. If there's anything that Inter's going to go their way, whether it's a stupid shirt pull or a lunge or a bad foul or something stupid on Lautaro for him to milk a million miles an hour, my money's on Bonucci to make it happen, man, to be honest. Definitely. So, and I hope Conte, with all his Bonucci experience, is going, all of you run straight at Leonardo, because he can't do shit at the moment. So hopefully it goes our way there. Before we move on to a couple other things, we'll do the predictions a little bit early. This is the ugliest part, and I have been horrendous for the most part this season. Everyone on Inter Worldwide bar, I think Mario Galliano has been pretty crap this season, but I have to go into this match in a pessimistic way, because I can't predict, Alex, that we're going to beat Juventus. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I need to see it to believe it. And it's just been so long since I've seen it that, we might be coming into this match with slightly better form. Man for man, I actually do think we've got a couple of superior players than they do in the starting 11. Our coach has got the pedigree and the experience, but it's just something about this fixture that forces us to play always beneath the expectations. I'm going to go for 1-1, and I'll take a point. Not like I would take a win, obviously, but I'll take it with a smile on my face and go about my day. So, Alex, you first, man. What do you think?
I think I'm going to shock some people, because especially with Conte's recent results in big matches, I rarely, and I'm sure Daniel knows this, and that I rarely pick Inter to win matches like this. So something about this one, and I think it maybe has more to do with what Juventus is missing, especially when I look at the opportunity Hakimi has going up against Frabotta, and like you said, hoping for some sort of a catastrophic mistake by Bonucci. From my opening monologue, I'm not guaranteeing anything, and I don't feel great about it. But if I have to make a prediction, I think I'm going to go 2-1 Inter. Again, I don't think it's going to be an easy match. Like, I don't see Inter taking, a 2-0 lead and just kind of cruising, to finish. I see more like contentious, either come from 1-0 behind or get a late goal at 1-1 to make it 2-1. I think it's going to be hopefully a really exciting matchup, because no matter which way it goes, I think that, Serie A fans deserve an exciting game, because this fixture, it's been very one-sided for a very, very long time. And I thought that, I'm sure Juventini enjoyed the two games last year, but they weren't particularly competitive. Inter were played off the pitch really in both of those. So I'm hoping for something a little more exciting this time around.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I would agree 100%. And Daniel, how are you feeling going into this, man? Optimistic or not so much?
Yes and no. I know we can score goals. That's not my concern. My concern is keeping them out without De Ligt. And if Chiellini doesn't play, Demiral's not experienced, Frabotta's not experienced. So I'm going to say 2-2. So I'm going to say Lukaku's going to probably score both. That's going to be my guess. And I'm hoping Ronaldo has a bounce back game because he wasn't very good against Sassuolo. He was quiet against Milan last week. The Coppa Italia, we won't really count that. So I'm hoping he steps up in this. He knows it's a big game, so hopefully he lives up to the hype.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? We'll wait for a couple of comments to come in if it does relate to the Juventus match. But while I've got the gentlemen here who do fantastic work, Alex, big fan of Cultural Connection, as everybody knows. So while we're here, we might as well talk a little bit of Serie A in what's happened in the last 24 hours or so, and we'll keep it mostly interrelated. A lot of rumors circulating at the moment that, you know, Suning are ready to cash in, man. They're ready to say that the project has come to a premature end. Nobody expected the pandemic to happen. With Suning making such great revenue, it made sense at the time to sign these players and save on transfer fees and offer them contracts and wages that are maybe a little bit on the expensive side. But, you know, it's making me a little bit nervous, man. And I'm not too sure what to believe because there are conflicting reports every single day. So where do you stand as of now? And what are your latest thoughts on the headlines that Inter, Suning, Zhang, and everybody above and below might be looking to depart?
Yeah, most importantly, I hate the fact that this is happening right now, right in the middle of such an important season for the club. It's always going to be a distraction. Anytime you're talking about club ownership changing hands, and this story is strange because a few weeks ago we first started to hear rumblings about this from a couple of Italian papers, and for what it's worth, Steven Zhang, the Inter president, did come out and make a statement against it, but people in that position, they lie all the time, right? I mean, you know, there's certainly incentive for him to lie because he wants to try and make the story less of a distraction. And yeah, now it's looking like if they don't sell the majority stake Suning, that they're at least looking for a really big investment of something like 30% of the club to basically inject some money into it. And one of the original reasons why a few weeks ago I really downplayed these rumors was logically it doesn't really make sense to sell a business this size during a pandemic when revenues are down. Like to me, it would make more sense for Suning to really maximize their profit. And I'm sure Inter is worth more today than it was 4 years ago when they bought in. So it's not like they would make a profit. But my instinct is that to really maximize your profit, you would wait until you bounce back revenue wise and you can ink some more of these sponsorship deals and you can get people in the stadiums and make more revenue. I think the reason why, though, this has become a real issue that Suning might sell is nothing in their control, certainly nothing in our control, is that the Chinese government, it operates a different way than, you know, a lot of other European or North American governments, in that, I mean, the way that, you know, the Chinese government is looking to kind of bounce back from the pandemic is, you know, they want their large businesses to only be investing in domestic things, right? That obviously Suning is a Chinese company that have, you know, a big business that's run in Italy. And if reports are to be believed, and I am far from an expert in Chinese politics, I'm far from an expert in that, but my understanding is they basically told Suning, you can't be investing money in this overseas project right now, that we need all the money to stay domestic to help the economy recover. And you know, there's no way around that. I mean, I was reading some comments within the past week from former Suning technical director Walter Sabatini. Remember, he had a brief stint at Inter, and he ended up resigning. And I think one of the frustrations he had was this was in 2017. And during that time, the Chinese government had a temporary freeze on investments. And the way he told the story was that, you know, and because he was working for both as a technical director for both Inter and for Jiangsu Suning, their club in China. And he had plenty of meetings with Suning at the time to try to encourage them, like, hey, this is what Inter need. We need to invest. And they told him flat out, you know, the government has a freeze right now. There's literally nothing we can do. That there's no wiggle room. There's no gray area. And if the Chinese government has one of those, and this is certainly more of an economic crisis than whatever they were going through, you know, 3 years ago, there may be no light at the end of the tunnel right now. And so I think that's why Suning might be realizing that, hey, like we're still allowed to operate this business, but right now everything has to be zero sum. Everything has to be balanced out. If we're going to make any player investments, the outgoing has to equal the incoming, and we cannot infuse, you know, any further cash into this. And so they're probably saying, you know, if we can't invest in this right now and we don't know when we can invest again, what is our upside right now? It might be better to cash out while, we could actually make some profit from this. So I think that's the reason why they're in this situation. And with the situation the Chinese government is in and the restrictions they're imposing, that's the only way I can make this make sense. Because if it's not that, then I don't know why Suning would be wanting to sell right now.
Yeah, 100%. I would agree, man. So I guess the headlines will change pretty much every day until something concrete happens. So we'll just wait for that and react to it accordingly. Daniel, speaking of financial limitations and whatnot, we're pretty much halfway through January, which means we're halfway through the Mercato. And as expected on pretty much every channel and everyone speaking, there's been little to no traction at pretty much any club. Do you expect your club to do any sort of business in January? I honestly haven't even checked into your club's rumors as to who you're linked to. All I read is that there's a possibility you're thinking of bringing Moise Kean back, only because he's found a couple of feet in PSG, which surely can't be hard in that league. Go on.
Yeah, if they do anything, it'll probably be minor things. To bring in someone in for 6 months or a year just to help Morata, who's we have no depth up top. And our midfields obviously look shaky at many times. I don't know if they've confirmed 100% yet the deal for Nicolo Rovella from Genoa, the young 19-year-old, but that looks like a promising signing if they can get that done. There's talks also of Brian Reynolds, from FC Dallas in MLS. Alex, you might know a little more about him. But young right back, and they're talking about him for another future piece. So everyone that they're looking to bring in now is either someone who's going to help for the next couple months or someone who's probably going to help in a year or two. Just, little couple millions out here and there because they don't have much money to spend, as many clubs don't.
It goes against the grain me saying this, but I'm looking at the Juventus project and what they're doing, and I'm going, shit, they're doing it right. Again, from the foundations up, for fuck's sake, man. Like, I'm watching it, and it's so easy to see what they're doing. It's like your president and everybody around said, oh, well, our closest rival is Inter. They're cashing in the cows and every single thing, balls deep for this Scudetto. Why don't we just make this the year that we turn it around? That way, if we don't come up trumps first, it's not the worst situation in the world. And that's sort of the feeling I'm getting from a lot of the Juventus fans, especially the ones that I'm, friends and related to, and that we actually do have constructive conversations. They're saying that this could be the year that they're happy to surrender it because they can see that things are being built properly for the future. And that pisses me off, bro.
It's nice to see, though. It's nice that they're investing in not only young Italians, but young talent that will be able to help them on the pitch, or even if they don't pan out and they don't think they're Juventus material, you can always flip them for, eventually it'll be a profit. Because when you're investing in a 19, 20-year-old, the chances of you losing a couple million on them is very slim. Like the Rovella case for, I think the rumor is about 10 million. So he's 19. You would think in a year from now, he's got to be at least worth probably double that if he keeps playing the way he has. He looked really good against us on Wednesday. But yeah, it's nice to see we're finally investing in some youth, not 33-year-old, guys, like, although, it's no question that we'd love to have Cristiano with us, but we're moving away from the Higuains and the Mandzukic and all those guys and trying to, finally putting some youthfulness into the squad, which you're going to need if you want to compete every year after year, right? So it's
absolutely
nice.
Another thing I will ask you, man, while I've got you here on Inter Worldwide today, the whole Cristiano Ronaldo situation, I'm a huge fan of his, man. I'm always vocal about it as well. I don't hide the fact that I'm not a huge fan of his. And with his salary, which I believe is still the same, it's at around, 31 million a season, around that?
I believe it's 30 net. Yeah, so he's taking home 30 million, yeah.
Cool. A salary obviously hard for even the richest of clubs in the world to maintain, but doing possibly so if you are Juventus. However, in this COVID situation right now, you will be asking yourself the question, is it sustainable to have a 30 million salary on the books next season? Do you know if Juventus do plan 100% on renewing the contract? I think I read this morning that Cristiano said he's happy to stay, or even if it results in him taking a small cut as well.
I can't see him taking a cut just because I feel like that's the type of person he is. Like, no disrespect to him. He's a great player, whatever, but I feel like he's there and he wants his money, right? There's no way going about that. But
rightfully so.
Yeah. So he's talked about he's willing or interested in renewing again for another year. But then again, he's going to be in his late 30s. You're paying him 30 million, even more because you're taking out, taxes and everything. So you're paying him more than 30 million a year. How long is that going to go on that you're paying someone who's almost 40 this kind of money? I know he's been a great influence in their sales worldwide, in helping the team, no doubt. But at some point, you're gonna have to just say, you know what, we can't sustain this anymore, and invest in more youth. Because think about 30 million, you're paying him wages, 30 million. You can put that to at least one solid young player, right? So
Yeah.
for me, I love him. I love having him. But I think within the next year, I think it's probably time to go the separate ways, and he can still play, and that's up to him where he wants to go.
100%. And that's got to be the main reason why you guys have been reluctant to even entertain the conversation with Paulo Dybala for a contract increase. I mean, when you look at Cristiano on the pitch and his influence, he's doing it consistently still at his age. No questions asked, whether it's the first minute, like maybe he doesn't have a good game here and there. But at the end of the day, Romelu Lukaku sometimes goes 60 minutes and he's not that good. He's average, but you know what Rom's like. He's headstrong until the 95th minute. And when he's on the bus on the way home, he's going to score and he's going to make something happen in the games for him to walk away with his head high. That's the way Cristiano is. And man, maybe it's just coming from an Inter fan point of view, but I don't get those vibes from Dybala and haven't for at least a couple of years. I thought he would have taken off right now and taken some sort of physical accountability on the pitch on a consistent basis. I'm asking you because you're the Juventus fan. Are you someone that maybe thinks he hasn't been played consistently into form well enough? Or do you think he's been given more than enough chances and, hey, mate, at the end of the day, you're good, but you're just not that great?
Yeah, his whole situation is really frustrating. They've been talking about a contract renewal for, I don't know, over a year now. And yeah, he's going to renew. He wants 15 million. They're offering 10, so on, back and forth. It's at some point, you're just going to say, this is what we're offering you. You're going to take it. If not, we're going to move on. And I think they're almost at that stage. I know they're talking about keep going with negotiations, but he's someone who's been, I know the injuries and the COVID have played a role in his tough season, but I think at the point now he's not showing it. He hasn't shown it on a consistent basis at all this year. Last year he had a good season under Sarri. I'll give him that. But now with this is his third or fourth different coach now with Juve. And no one really knows what his best position is. Is he a striker? Is he a attacking midfielder? Is he a second striker? He's definitely not a winger. So where are you going to play him? Those aren't as much as you like to have someone with his talent. He's not able to show it every night or every game. And at some point you're going to say, is it worth keeping him for this? Or we can get someone that, may help our midfield or help our back line and that we know what we're getting. So if he's not able to come to some kind of contract agreement, I wouldn't be surprised if they look to move him this summer. You can still get some value, you can still make a profit off of him. So that's definitely a possibility. And I wouldn't be okay with it, but it is what it is at this point. You can only give him so many chances.
Very, very well said, man. Back to Inter as we start to close in on this edition of Inter Worldwide. Alex, Christian Eriksen started at Regista, played with the ball at his feet a lot, ran with the ball a lot, was involved a lot. But I'm not one of the fans that sat back and went, oh, yes, what a revelation. We have Christian Eriksen as a Regista. Look at that. Because he was okay, but he wasn't that great either. He misplaced a lot of passes. He was just getting used to a new role, which is fine by me, and he will take some getting used to. I don't think, as we've already said with our predicted lineup, he is going to start against Juventus. But overall, Alex, did you like what you saw from Christian Eriksen? And do you think that there's any way back for him? I like talking to you about this because we've been having conversations on air right from the foundations of the signing, pretty much. So now we're at that point where, the questions will be asked again soon based on how he goes in this deep line role.
I agree with you. I'm very much in agreement about how I don't get why people were overhyping that performance so much. It's like at this point they hold Eriksen to such a low standard that if he basically doesn't go out there and just walks for 90 minutes, people will praise the performance. I thought he was fine. Like you said, he did misplace some balls. One thing though about that performance against Fiorentina, at least makes me optimistic that he's an option. Like that's my big takeaway, in that it's not looking like he's going to be sold in January. Everyone is struggling financially for the most part. The wages are very high. No one's really biting. I know he doesn't want to be at Inter, and Conte doesn't seem to want him, but it's going to be a marriage of convenience. They're going to be stuck together for another 6 months. So I think it's good to know that he's an option. And, obviously no European football for Inter, but they do go at least one step farther in Coppa Italia. So you're going to, and you also have a condensed Serie A season. So you're going to need some squad rotation. So it's nice to know that he's an option. As far as him really playing his way back into Conte's good graces, I'll never say never. I don't think he's going to be enough of a revelation that come summer, assuming Conte wants to stay another season, right? I mean, Conte's got one more year left on his contract. If Conte stays, I don't think Eriksen is going to be such a revelation that Conte is going to say, you know what, take him off the transfer list. I want to keep him. He's part of my project. No, but do I think Eriksen can play a somewhat important substitute role and maybe spot start a few matches from here on out? Absolutely, because at some point you're going to have a guy like Barella, who plays aggressively, is going to sit out a match or two for yellow card suspensions. Arturo Vidal may sit out for some red card suspensions. Brozovic, the same thing. He may not stay fit the entire season. And Stefano Sensi, God knows if he'll ever put together 2 healthy matches consecutively. Matthias Vecino is going to be coming back from injury, but is he going to be match fit right away? So I think there are going to be plenty of opportunities for Christian Eriksen to play. And so at least Wednesday showed me that you can trust this guy enough to actually add something. He wasn't spectacular. He was fine. And so I think he can help. And I also, for the record, I know that 95% of Interisti never want to see Arturo Vidal ever again, and they just hate the guy. They can't stand his face. I also think Arturo Vidal can do important things for this club this year, believe it or not. It's obvious Conte rates him. Conte wants to keep playing him, and he's going to make some catastrophic mistakes, but I also think he can add some quality. So I'm somewhat optimistic about some of these midfield options that people have written off completely.
100%. Let's hope his scuffed penalty that was looked a lot better by the keeper diving the wrong way be a start of many great things to come for Vidal this season, man. Before we go, I'll go over to Daniel one more time because it's your first time on the channel, the first time I've had a Juventino on this season. What are your predictions and expectations for the club? Where do you think you'll finish at the end of the season in all 3 frontal competitions, bro?
Okay, so Coppa Italia, I think we have a good chance of making the final. We've done it, a few years. It is, at the end of the day, it's a trophy. Or is it top of the list? Not really, but if it's better than not winning anything, then we'll take it. Champions League, I can see them maybe final 8, if that. The Porto, they should be able to beat, but it'll still be a tough match. And then after that, it all depends who they draw. And Serie A, I'm gonna say 3rd. I'm gonna say they're gonna finish 3rd. I'm gonna go Inter, Milan, Juve. That's my prediction.
Nice. Alex made a face when you were talking about Coppa Italia the same time I did. So I want to see if he was making it for the same reasons I was. Go on, Alex. Was it something to do with the schedule and who they play next?
Who does Juve play next, actually?
Well, Spal did over Sassuolo, so you can almost tattoo Juve's name into the semi now because they've got Spal next.
Oh, is that what they have?
Yeah,
that's right. No, I didn't even realize that. I didn't realize that, honestly. No, I mean, I actually, the face that I made was one of amusement because I think Coppa Italia, I see it as maybe a more important trophy than it was looked at 10, 15 years ago. That this is actually one that I would love to see Inter win it. Like I've heard some Interisti that are snobby enough to say things like, "Oh, I'd rather get eliminated from Coppa Italia, focus 100% on Serie A." Well, then what happens if you bottle the Serie A and you've already, given up on Coppa Italia? Listen, would I rather win a Scudetto? Absolutely. But if the Scudetto is lost and and Inter are able to win the Coppa Italia trophy, I will take that over no trophy. It's been too long.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think it's about it's like that in most of the leagues, especially for the fans with social media and everything and everyone bantering each other 24/7. Everyone's pride and ego was kind of just up the ante by like 5 tiers in the digital age, basically. So winning any sort of trophy to an English fan is huge now, even if it's like the League Cup or the FA Cup. It's all gold. And to a club like Inter, I would agree, beggars cannot be choosers, man. We need to go for it for everything we've got. I don't want to neglect any questions, so I'll just go through it quickly. Is there a chance that Lautaro becomes an elite striker, Alex?
Yeah, there's a chance. The talent is there. The consistency is not, and that's what drives me crazy. And I was a little bit extreme, but I tweeted something out when I was watching him not perform very well against Fiorentina that I wonder why can't Lautaro ever have just an average game, right? I mean, when he's at his best, he's messy. when he's at his worst, he's Eder, and there's never anything in between, right? He's either playing world class or he's missing sitters, 2 or 3 of them in a match. But no, the talent. I mean, Lautaro is still young. Let's not forget. Was he 22 years old? Maybe 23. I think he's still around 22.
Super young. Yeah.
Super young, and you see the types of goals he's capable of scoring. So he's absolutely capable of becoming a world-class striker. There's no question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, man. All right, well, that's pretty much going to wrap up our match preview for Inter and Juventus. And I just want to give a huge thank you to our guests. Their plugs are slowly rotating down the bottom of this stream right now. So, Daniel, is there anything that you want to plug or say before we exit?
Take a read of my articles if you guys want to. It's not all Juve stuff. We got a bit of Serie A, a little bit of everything. So I'd love to hear what you think. And give me a follow. We'll talk some Inter, talk some Calcio, whatever. Thanks again for having me.
In the short amount of spare time I have, Daniel, you're one of the writers that I do get onto World Football Index and have a read of your stuff. It's always really, really good, bro. So please keep it up.
Sir.
And Alex, always a pleasure to have you on, my friend. Anything you want to say before we depart in peace?
Yeah. I mean, I think people know, and you've plugged it very well for me, Anthony, to find me and Jerry Mancini, and Daniel joins us a lot on the Calcio Connection podcast. For those who are interested, I do a daily show 3 hours a day at onsideradio.com. I have a feeling, though, the North Americans watching would be more inclined to that because it's mostly American sports. So probably more interested in Calcio Connection, but Onside Radio as well. You guys can hear me daily.
Absolutely. Awesome stuff. So from all of us here at Inter Worldwide, hopefully we are reconnecting after a positive result in the derby, but we'll be here no matter what. So ciao ragazzi.